Imagine yourself in the shoes of Julia, a 19-year-old full of dreams and hopes but trapped in a reality of financial difficulties. When she met Carlos, a 75-year-old man, at a local cafe, she saw in him an opportunity to change her life. The age difference and social conventions mattered little to her in the face of the possibility of securing her financial future through his life insurance. But life, always full of surprises, had different plans for Julia. The plot unfolds in a whirlwind of emotions, love, and discoveries. At first, Julia saw Carlos only as a means to an end, but as their relationship evolved, she began to develop genuine affection for him. She found herself torn between her feelings and her initial plan, creating a deep internal conflict. It is precisely at this point that the story takes unexpected and surprising turns. Honesty and transparency emerge as crucial elements, transforming the narrative into a true lesson about the value of love and trust. Prepare to dive into a story where appearances deceive and intentions are revealed. You will see how an ambitious young woman and an experienced man can transform each other in ways they never imagined. Each twist challenges our perceptions of love and money, as Julia learns that true wealth goes beyond the material. This is a story that promises to move and teach, showing that love, affection, and trust are the true treasures of life. Imagine yourself in the shoes of Julia, a 19-year-old full of dreams and hopes but trapped in a reality of financial difficulties. When she met Carlos, a 75-year-old man, at a local cafe, she saw in him an opportunity to change her life. The age difference and social conventions mattered little to her in the face of the possibility of securing her financial future through his life insurance. But life, always full of surprises, had different plans for Julia. The plot unfolds in a whirlwind of emotions, love, and discoveries. At first, Julia saw Carlos only as a means to an end, but as their relationship evolved, she began to develop genuine affection for him. She found herself torn between her feelings and her initial plan, creating a deep internal conflict. It is precisely at this point that the story takes unexpected and surprising turns. Honesty and transparency emerge as crucial elements, transforming the narrative into a true lesson about the value of love and trust. Prepare to dive into a story where appearances deceive and intentions are revealed. You will see how an ambitious young woman and an experienced man can transform each other in ways they never imagined. Each twist challenges our perceptions of love and money, as Julia learns that true wealth goes beyond the material. This is a story that promises to move and teach, showing that love, affection, and trust are the true treasures of life. Julia, struggling with financial difficulties, sees in Carlos an opportunity to secure her financial future through his life insurance. Julia was going through a difficult period in her life. Her hopes and dreams often collided with the reality of her scarce finances, bringing a constant burden on her shoulders. She lived one day at a time, always looking for ways to ease her monetary worries. In this context, the figure of Carlos, a financially stable man, seemed a possible solution to her problems. The affection and love he showed awakened in her a feeling of gratitude, but also of opportunity. In the midst of conversations and confidences, Julia discovered that Carlos had a considerable life insurance policy. The revelation was a mix of emotion and internal conflict for her. On one hand, there was the chance to resolve her financial difficulties once and for all; on the other, the guilt of considering such a possibility. The love she was beginning to feel for Carlos made the idea of benefiting from his death even more disturbing. But in moments of despair, the mind can find justifications for the most complex thoughts. During these times, Julia tried to rationalize her feelings. She thought that if something happened naturally to Carlos, she would be protected and could honor the love and affection he had for her. But at the same time, the idea of planning or even counting on this made her deeply uncomfortable. Thus, an internal struggle began to form within her, where emotion and morality constantly clashed, leading her to question the real meaning of love and sacrifice. Describes how Julia and Carlos begin to date, highlighting the age difference and the curious glances from society. The relationship between Julia and Carlos began subtly and unassumingly. Their meetings at the cafe became more frequent, and the conversations deeper. Love blossomed amidst mutual respect and the exchange of experiences. Despite the age difference, which was evident to all, the two found common ground where emotion and affection grew day by day. They were in no hurry, but the connection between them was undeniable. As time passed, cafe visits turned into park strolls, cozy restaurant dinners, and long moonlit walks. Society, always watchful and critical, could not help but notice the peculiarity of this union. Curious glances and whispers at the corners were inevitable. However, Julia and Carlos decided to ignore these judgments, focusing on the love they shared. For them, what really mattered was what they felt for each other. Still, the external pressure was not easy to bear. Julia, with her youth and vitality, often felt the target of inquisitive looks. Carlos, with his life experience, knew that true love did not care about age. He reassured her with words of wisdom and affection, reminding her that love is a unique journey for each individual. Thus, together, they faced adversities, further strengthening the bond that united them. Julia starts to know Carlos more deeply and, against all expectations, develops genuine affection for him. As time went by, Julia began to uncover the layers of Carlos's personality. Each conversation revealed a new facet of him, from his old passions to the lessons life had taught him. At first, the relationship may have had a more pragmatic purpose, but daily interaction transformed Julia's perception. The affection and love that Carlos showed, with simple and sincere gestures, began to touch her heart deeply and unexpectedly. Carlos, for his part, was dedicated to showing Julia the world through his eyes. He shared stories of youth, moments of overcoming, and above all, the importance of living with emotion and gratitude. Julia, listening to these stories, began to see the value of experiences and true love. The affection she felt for him grew each day, and the initial intentions began to mingle with genuine feelings. The love that seemed unlikely at first was blossoming in a surprising way. In their interactions, Julia began to realize the depth of the affection she felt for Carlos. The original plan to benefit from life insurance lost its strength in the face of the reality of the love they shared. She found herself increasingly involved, feeling an emotional responsibility towards him. The laughter, the deep conversations, and the moments of silence together became precious. True affection took root, and Julia began to question the true motivations of her heart. Julia shares her initial plan to benefit from Carlos's life insurance with a friend, but begins to feel guilty. One afternoon, in a moment of venting, Julia decided to share her secret with her closest friend, Anna. Sitting in a discreet cafe, Julia talked about her initial intentions regarding Carlos. Anna listened attentively, without interrupting, understanding Julia's dilemma. As Julia recounted her plan, she felt an increasingly strong pang of guilt. The idea of using Carlos's love and affection for her benefit began to weigh on her conscience. Anna, surprised and worried, tried to help Julia see the situation from another perspective. She asked if Julia was really willing to go ahead with a plan that could hurt someone who clearly loved her. Julia reflected on her friend's words, feeling the emotion grow inside her. The genuine love she was developing for Carlos made it increasingly difficult to bear the thought of manipulating him. The affection she felt was real, and this made her reconsider her actions. The conversation with Anna was a turning point for Julia. She began to realize that her feelings for Carlos were deeper than she had admitted to herself. The guilt she felt transformed into a need to be honest, not only with Carlos but also with herself. She decided she needed to rethink her choices and assess the true value of the love she was beginning to nurture. The moral dilemma she faced was complex, but Julia knew she needed to follow her heart, even if it meant facing the consequences of her revelations. Carlos discovers, through an accidental conversation, Julia's initial intentions and is deeply hurt. One night, while Julia was on the phone with Anna, unaware that Carlos was nearby, she mentioned her initial plans. Carlos, hearing the conversation, felt a wave of shock and sadness. He had believed that the love and affection Julia showed were genuine from the beginning. The revelation of Julia's true intentions hurt him deeply, as if a knife had pierced his heart. The emotion he felt for her was now mixed with the pain of betrayal. Carlos silently withdrew, trying to process what he had just heard. He never imagined that someone could use his love in such a calculated way. The disappointment weighed heavily on his chest, but at the same time, he remembered the sincere moments he had shared with Julia. Was everything a lie? The doubt gnawed at his mind, but he knew he needed to confront her to understand what was really happening. The affection he still felt for her made this situation even more complicated. The next morning, Carlos decided to talk to Julia. His heart was heavy with emotion, but he needed to hear the truth directly from her. When they met, he revealed that he had overheard the conversation and asked Julia to explain herself. Julia, surprised and heartbroken, felt a deep sense of guilt. She knew she needed to be honest with him, even if it meant losing his love. The moment of truth had arrived, and Julia needed to show that her feelings had transformed along the way. Julia and Carlos have a frank conversation about the initial plan and the genuine feelings that developed over time. Julia felt her heart pound as she prepared to talk to Carlos. She knew that this moment would be decisive for their relationship. When they finally sat down to talk, she took a deep breath and began to explain everything. She confessed that, at first, she saw Carlos as a means to solve her financial problems. However, over time, her feelings had genuinely changed, and she had fallen in love with him. Her voice was filled with emotion, and tears streamed down her face as she spoke. Carlos listened carefully, trying to process Julia's words. The pain of the initial revelation still hurt, but he also saw the sincerity in her eyes. He felt the internal struggle she was facing and knew that, despite everything, the moments they shared were real. The love he felt for her was still there, mixed with the pain of betrayal. He asked for time to think, as he needed to assess whether he could forgive and move on. The emotion in that conversation was palpable, with both hearts open and vulnerable. In the following days, Carlos reflected deeply on everything that had happened. He remembered the good times and the genuine love he had felt. Despite the initial intentions, he could see that Julia was truly repentant and that her feelings had changed. He knew that love was complex and that forgiveness could be the key to moving forward. He decided to give Julia another chance, hoping that the love they felt could overcome the challenges and build a stronger relationship. This emotional confrontation marked the beginning of a new phase for both of them. Carlos decides to forgive Julia, but the process of rebuilding trust is long and challenging. Carlos's decision to forgive Julia was the first step in a long and challenging process. The emotion he felt for her was strong enough to overcome the initial pain, but rebuilding trust would require effort and patience from both. Julia, determined to show her true love and regret, committed to being transparent and open in all her actions. She knew that she needed to demonstrate, day by day, that her feelings were real and that she was willing to do anything to regain Carlos's trust. The days that followed were marked by moments of vulnerability and mutual support. Carlos, although still hurt, allowed himself to feel the affection he had for Julia. He realized that forgiveness was not only for her but also for himself, to free his heart from the pain and resentment. Julia, for her part, worked hard to prove her love, always being present and showing that her intentions had truly changed. The path to forgiveness was arduous, but love guided them. Gradually, the bond between them began to strengthen again. Each small gesture of affection and trust was a step towards rebuilding their relationship. The genuine moments they shared became even more precious, and they learned to value the love they had. The process of rebuilding trust was long and challenging, but the emotion and commitment of both made this journey possible. In the end, love showed that it could overcome even the deepest wounds, bringing hope and renewal to their hearts. Julia and Carlos decide to leave the past behind and start a new chapter in their relationship, stronger than before. With the passage of time and the commitment of both, Julia and Carlos managed to overcome the obstacles that threatened their relationship. They decided that it was time to leave the past behind and focus on the future they could build together. The love they felt had grown stronger, and the process of forgiveness had brought them even closer. They were ready to start a new chapter in their story, one marked by honesty, respect, and mutual affection. They chose to travel together, exploring new places and creating memories that would strengthen their bond even more. Each adventure they shared was a reaffirmation of the love that united them, and they learned to value each moment together. Julia and Carlos built a new life, where love was the foundation and trust the pillar. The emotions they felt were genuine and deep, making their relationship an example of overcoming and commitment. In this new phase, they also decided to engage in charitable activities, helping others who were facing difficulties. The experience they had gone through made them more empathetic and willing to make a difference in the world. Together, they found a new purpose, which not only strengthened their bond but also brought fulfillment and happiness to both. Love had triumphed, and the new beginning was full of promises and hope. Julia learns that love, trust, and honesty are more valuable than money, transforming her life and perspectives forever. The journey that Julia went through was transformative. From the moment she met Carlos with hidden intentions to the genuine love that developed between them, she learned valuable lessons. She realized that love, trust, and honesty are worth much more than any material wealth. The experiences she lived with Carlos taught her that true happiness lies in sincere relationships and mutual affection, not in financial security. Julia's life perspective changed profoundly. She learned to value the people around her and to be honest in her relationships. The transformation she underwent was evident in her actions and choices. The ambition that once guided her steps was replaced by a desire to live with integrity and love. Carlos, with his wisdom and affection, was instrumental in this change, showing her the true meaning of a fulfilling life. In the end, Julia became a better person, with a heart full of gratitude and love. The lesson she learned was a reminder that the most valuable things in life cannot be bought. Love, trust, and honesty became her guiding principles, and she lived each day with a renewed sense of purpose and emotion. Her story with Carlos was a testimony of overcoming and the transformative power of love, leaving a lasting impact on her life and perspectives.